obvious answers also. One obvious answer would be that the Constitution gives us a set of rules, set of law. It sets a rule of the game. It also gives us an institutional framework. It also defines the jurisdiction of the different organs of the government, the official functionaries, the constitutional functionaries. But more importantly for me as a citizen of India, uh, more important for me would be that the Constitution gives me an identity. Constitution gives me an identity of being an Indian citizen. This is very important. That, and second thing, that as a citizen of India, you don't take any oath. There is no fourth schedule or third schedule for you. Sorry, there is no third schedule for you, or there is no in the text also, like for the president or the governor, we don't take an oath to defend, preserve, and protect the Constitution. But by virtue of being a citizen of India, it is understood that we have taken oath to abide by the Constitution. So Constitution gives us a distinctive identity, what it means to be a citizen of India. This is one. Second, the Constitution also gives us a vision that what kind of nation it would be, what kind of country we are going to be. Like we are talking about Viksit Bharat and 2047. So over the period, we have got this kind of vision that how the Constitution, because Constitution remains like the fund. We had the Granville Austin visiting our department, and he said that that despite in 2000, I think 99 or 2000, he said that there have been so many amendments, but basically the Constitution remains the same. So the foundational values, Gautam Bhatia, you have all the people who have been writing about this. They all argue, and especially the National Law University products. I mean, I'm very much enamored by their words, right? Madhav Khosla would be another. So they have been arguing, or Rohit Day, People's Constitution. They all argue that the Constitution, the founding values of the Constitution, the foundational values of the Constitution has remained intact. And that has given us a roadmap. That has given us a vision. So the Constitution gives us a distinct identity as a citizen of India. Constitution also provides us a roadmap for the nation building, for how to go about it, right? This is very important. And Constitution also allows the government to be a limited government and a responsive government. This is very important because we talked about, no democracy can survive if there are no checks and balances, if there is no responsiveness. So the Constitution, if you read the text of the Constitution, you find that the Constitution provides checks and balances, and it also allows the government to be a responsive government. There are provisions which make the state to work. We always talk about part 3 of the Constitution. So there are provisions where the state has to act. For example, Article 17, abolition of untouchability. The state has to, it is criminalized. It's a criminal, so the state has to work. When you say the right to life and personal liberty, you talk about right to equality of opportunity, equality of justice, social justice. So state has to go for compensatory legislation. The state has to go for affirmative policies. So all these things are there. So that way, I think that the Constitution is very, very vital for the success of well-being of India's democracy. And let me tell you that we always say that new democracy. India is not a new democracy. Our Constitution is not a new Constitution. It is one of the oldest Constitution in the world right now. 75 years of the Constitution. It's not a new Constitution. If you refer to the Constitution, of course, we always talk about the US Constitution 1788, or we talk about French Constitution 1791. We talk about the American War of Independence. We talk about Glorious Revolution. We talk about, but then American Constitution really became a democratic constitution only in 1960s when the Lyndon B. Johnson became the president, and the civil laws. There was a reform, and the blacks, the colored people in America, they got the equal civil rights. And 1928, you had the Nehru report, Motilal Nehru report. By the way, this was not a Congress party report, it was an all party report. There it said that there should be equal franchise. But then, it was in 1920 that the women got the right to vote in America. In 1928, in Britain, the women got the right to vote. So that way, our constitution has been ahead of many constitutions. And those constitutions which were constituted in the interwar period, or the democracies which came into existence in the interwar period, they all founded. Like Germany, you can refer to Germany, you can refer to, the Italy, you can refer to the Spain, and all these countries. They started. There was a kind of a democratic revival, democracy coming into the focus. But then there was a kind of backtrack. And then, after the Second World War, there have been so many democracies in the Asian, African, and Latin American countries. These democracies did not survive. So that is another point I wanted to make, that Indian democracy has survived. It has gone from strength to strength. The success of Indian democracy makes it one of the oldest democracy in the present world. So don't go into the past. Even at present, Indian democracy, Indian constitution, they are the oldest in the whole world. You talk about first wave, second wave, third wave of democratic transition, democratic consolidation. But in India, we have had a consistent, except those 2 years of emergency, 1975 to 77, India has been actually existing democracy. And if we talk about the success of democracy, we talk about the success of the constitution, let me add another thing, and then I would come to Dr. Ambedkar. Rohit Day has argued that Indian constitution is the people's constitution. If you must read those books, there have been so many wonderful books which have come up. I would give the list to Balwinder ma'am. I mean, I have purchased all these books in our AC Joshi also. I have got in UPSC also. I have got all these books there in the library, and there's a whole. And all these books have been written by the young people like you. I mean, I can see some young people. They have written those books. They are essentially PhD work, right? So, 3 words I would like to flag here. Is Indian constitution a people's constitution? Yes, it's a people's constitution, because that is why the constitution has survived so long. I tell you, I once visited Chittorgarh Fort, Chittorgarh Fort, and there is a village inside Chittorgarh. And I could see the statue of Dr. Ambedkar with the constitution copy in his hand. You must have noted that, the suited, booted Dr. Ambedkar with the constitutional copy in his hand. So that way, that is a sure sign that even the lowest segment of the society, socially, economically marginal people, they have also accepted the constitution as their own. So it's a people's constitution also, because the constitution has survived so long. It may be a living constitution, but then how many? I mean, you just think about your neighborhood. How many constitution Pakistan has? How many constitution Bangladesh has? They are going to have probably another set of constitution. And another point, so this is very important point. And if you read the Westerners, they would always say 1950 constitution. Why do they write 1950 constitution? Because in their mind it is there that the third world countries or Asian African countries, they keep on shifting their constitution. But as I argued, and I referred Austin also, a constitutional authority, that our constitution has remained intact. It has been a living constitution. Obviously, a country evolves, a society evolves, economy evolves. So constitution has to keep pace with the society. Right now in America, they are saying that it was a mistake to give so much power to the American presidency, and they are having problem. So that way our constitution is, so it's a people's constitution because it has survived, it has been accepted by the general common people. Another thing I would like to say, that our constitution is also a cosmopolitan constitution. It is cosmopolitan constitution not merely because it borrows ideas or it borrows from the Western constitution. It borrows from US, Ireland, Canada, many countries it borrows. And there, of course, it's an intelligent borrowing. It's an adaptation. 1935 Act also, it would be wrong to say that we have just borrowed the terms and all. There has been tinkering. There has been a attempt to adapt those provisions in the context of Indian Constitution. For example, you just referred to Dr. Ambedkar's speech in the Constituent Assembly when he is talking about the office of the president, and then he is making a comparison between the American presidency and Indian presidency. So that kind of thing is there. So it's not a cosmopolitan only because it borrows from the concept or the ideas from the foreign constitution. It is also cosmopolitan because it reflects the cosmopolitan values. Liberty, equality, justice, these all are the global cosmopolitan values and which have been borrowed by the constitution. So our constitution is not only a people's constitution, it is also a cosmopolitan constitution. The constitution is also a moral document. Moral document in the sense that the constitution is not merely a descriptive. It is not only giving you like what are the powers of legislature or executive or what is the center state relation, Article 249 or emergency provisions and all. Constitution also is a moral document because constitution asks you to follow certain moral values like fraternity, and there, like today's topic, like social justice, you read the preamble. What does preamble says? Equality of opportunity and equality of status. It talks about social justice, social, economic, and political. Social, economic, and political. So if you read the preamble, preamble is a kind of a philosophical postulates of the constitution. It gives you the philosophy of the constitution. You find that the whole idea of democracy, when you conceive the idea of Indian democracy, it is not like one kind of political democracy. Our constitution makers wanted us to think of democracy not merely in a procedural sense. They wanted us to think of democracy in a substantive sense also. So procedural as well as substantive aspect of democracy, they all are taken care of by our constitutional text. And there, I think, if you refer to the part 3 and part 4 of the constitution, obviously, of late, there has been a lot of debate. Neera Chandok and all, they have argued that why social and economic rights were not put in part 3, why they were not made enforceable, right? This is a valid argument, but then the counter argument would be that many of these rights, thanks to the judiciary, they have become enforceable. Just think of like Article 21A, the right to education, or think of like Article 21 itself, and then, we had this procedure established by law. Now it's a due process of law, thanks to the judiciary. But then you have Article 142, the right to the power to do complete justice. So the 142, Article 32, 226, all these articles, 131 also, all these articles have given the jurisdiction to the higher judiciary to interpret the constitution in the most progressive way, and that is why the horizon of the rights have been expanded. So in a country like, people ask me, my students ask me, that what is so significant about the constitution? I say that, and this I stand by, the constitution, what myths appeal to me is that the constitution not only recognizes the differences in a country like India, even if you are a votary of one nation, one people, but we know that the people have their own culture, people have their own language, people have their own traditions, the racial differences are there, linguistic differences are there, and these differences, obviously in a democracy, you want to preserve all the differences. You don't want to, you don't want to suppress the differences. So that way, if you read the constitution not only recognizes the differences, it also accommodates the differences. It also gives representation to the differences. And there comes the role of the social justice. If you read the constitution like 330, it talks about reservation. 332, reservation for the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe in the law-making bodies. 332 is for Vidhan Sabha, 330 is for the Lok Sabha. You all must be knowing it. Representation. This is also very important. So obviously, if you don't have the reservation for the scheduled caste scheduled tribe, obviously they would not have been there in the lawmaking body. So allowing for social justice, political justice, and the economic justice, like the entire part 4, if you read